Hello again, I'm Dave and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. Now if you've played around with the various options available in the PhatPhish scale calculator, you might have noticed that you can rearrange the root notes that appear in the drop down. You can have them in what looks like a completely logical order, or you can have them in ordered by circle of fifths. So what is the circle of fifths? Why is it relevant? Well, to understand this, talk a little bit about scale theory. Now the first scale that you learn, assuming it's not minor pentatonic, the first scale you learn usually is the major scale, and usually it's the C major scale. The notes in it of C, D, E, F, G, A and B, going back to C. Now a trap that people sometimes fall into is they think, oh well, there's no sharps or flats in that scale, so major scale means no sharps or flats. It doesn't. What major scale means is it's about the intervals between the notes. So you start from your first note, your root note, in this case C. You go up an interval of 2 semitones or a whole tone to get to the next note, which is D. Then up an interval of a whole tone to get you to E. Then an interval of a semitone gets you to F. Another interval of whole tone or 2 semitones to G. Then another whole tone or 2 semitones to A. Another whole tone or 2 semitones to B, and then a semitone gets you back to C. And if you take that pattern of intervals and rearrange it on a different root note, then you get a different set of note names. So if I went up, say, to D and played the same set of intervals, the same shape on the fingerboard, if you like, that still sounds like a major scale because the intervals between the notes. But if you look at the note names involved, you can see that it's got an F sharp and a C sharp. Yeah, just because of the way that the notes of the chromatic scale fall when you move through them in that set of intervals. So, circle of fifths, what's all this about? We look at the key of C major, there's no sharps or flats. Now, if we go up by an interval of a perfect fifth from C, it gets us to G. Now let's look at the notes that we have in a G major scale. So we go to a G root note and play the same set of intervals. We get these notes. So it's looking kind of like, oh, it's all unaccented notes until we get to that 7th degree where we've actually got an F sharp. So what? Well, look at what the relationship is between G major and C major. Basically, we take the root note up by an interval of a perfect fifth, and we take all the notes from that previous major scale, the C major, and we put a sharp sign on the 7th note of the scale. Now, this isn't talking about altering the scale formula. It's still a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 formula. Just the name of the note is a note name that's got a sharp in it. And if we look at what the 5th degree of G major is, it's a D. Now we're just playing D before and we said it had 2 sharps in it. Yeah, it had an F sharp and a C sharp. Well, look at what happened. We took all the notes from G major, including that F sharp, so we keep the sharp sign in it, and C with a sharp sign on the end of it, that's the notes of D major. So what happens as you go around the circle of fifths is you're taking all the notes from the previous key and adding a sharp sign to the 7th note in the scale. So go from C major with no sharps or flats, G major, it's got 1 sharp note name in it, D major has 2 sharp note names in it, A major, 3 sharp note names in it, E, B, and so on. We'll take that all the way around, so to get to F sharp major, which has got 6 sharp signs in it, and go again to C sharp major, where every note in the scale has got a sharp sign in it. Okay, where do we go from there? Well, kind of run out of steam, haven't we? We've put sharp signs on all the notes. Let's go back to C though. You sometimes hear the circle of fifths called the cycle of fourths, or the circle of fourths. That's because you can go anti-clockwise as well. So we're going clockwise here, going up an interval of a perfect fifth. But the inverse of a perfect fifth is a perfect fourth. Yeah, if you kind of think about going counterclockwise there, G up an interval of a perfect fourth gets you to C. If we go from C up an interval of a perfect fourth gets us to F. Now let's look at the notes involved in F major. We've got F, G, A, B flat. Oh, interesting. C, D, E, back to F. B flat. So what's the relationship between the notes in that scale and C major? Well, basically we took all the notes that we had in the C major scale, but then we put a flat sign on the name of the fourth note. Again, we're not changing the formula of the scale, we're just saying that the note that falls on that fourth degree is a note name that's got a flat in it. And we can do the same thing going counterclockwise. Up an interval of a perfect fourth from F gets us to B flat. So we take all the note names that we had in F major, rearrange them on a B flat root note, and we put a flat sign on the fourth degree of that new scale, which is E. It gets us to E flat. So the notes of B flat major are B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, and A, and then back to B flat. And you can take that all the way around the circle of fourths, adding a flat sign to every fourth degree as you go along. So we'll go from C to F to B flat to E flat, and so on all the way around until we get to G flat major, which has got 6 flat signs in it, and then another step gets us to C flat major, where every note in C flat major has got a flat sign in the note name. So why is this useful? Well, let's think about what happens in normal music notation, where we've got a series of lines and I can put dots on those lines to tell you what notes I want you to play. Nice and straightforward. Each line represents a note, and a dot tells you I want you to play a note of that pitch. Now, if I want you to play a note that's got a sharp in its name, I can put a sharp sign next to that dot to tell you this isn't F, this is F sharp. But if you think about what happens if you're playing in a key like F sharp major, where there's 6 sharp signs in there, the music notation is going to get really cluttered, because more often than not you're going to have a dot that's got a sharp sign next to it, and there's just an awful lot of ink on the page, and it makes it a little bit difficult to read. So what music notation uses is a thing called a key signature, where at the start of the stave we can mark up some of those lines to say, unless I tell you otherwise, this line or this gap between the lines representing a note, take it that that note name is the one that's got a sharp on it, because I'm marking that line or that gap to say this is a sharp type of note. So I wouldn't put a sharp sign next to the F dot, but you know that it's got a sharp on it because the key signature says this, unless I tell you otherwise, this is going to be an F sharp rather than an F natural. Now with practice, you'll get to just look at a key signature and you'll instantly recognize, oh, well, like I see 4 sharps, therefore must be in the key of E major. But if you're not that familiar with it, you don't want to just have to sit and work out what notes have I got there, so what key could they possibly come from. Just use the circle of fifths to help you. I'm looking at that key signature, there's 4 sharps there. Well, C has no sharp signs in it. Go up an interval of a perfect fifth to G. G major has 1 sharp sign in it. D major has 2. A major has 3. E major has 4. Just going up an interval of a perfect fifth in terms of the root note, however many hops around the circle of fifths I go, I'm adding a sharp each time. Or if I'm going the other way, I'm adding a flat. But that's an easy way of just like looking at a key signature and working out what key you're in. Nice and straightforward. Now every major key has a corresponding relative natural minor, which is based on the 6th degree of the scale. So if we look at the case of C major, 6th degree of that scale is A. So A natural minor has the same notes in it as C major, but they're arranged from the A root note, and because they're the same notes but in a different order, then the intervals between them are slightly different. So we've got intervals of whole tone, semitone, whole tone, whole tone, semitone, whole tone, and then a whole tone to get back to the root note. So A natural minor is the relative natural minor of C, and it has no sharps or flats. So let's shuffle things around in the circle of fifths and make space for the relative natural minors. So we've got A natural minor sitting there next to C major. Up an interval of a perfect fifth from A is E. So E natural minor has all the notes of A natural minor, but we're adding a sharp sign onto the 2nd degree. it's basically the same notes as what we had in G major, and then so on. We can go all the way around the circle of fifths, or the other way, circle of fourths, to look at the relative natural minors. Another useful application of the circle of fifths is to help you work out key changes. So if say I'm writing a piece of music and I want a key change, I'm starting in the key of C major and I want to modulate a key change. Looking at how many similar notes there are from one key to another can help me with how I do that key change. So if I want a fairly subtle key change, I might want to go from C major to G major, because they're only one hop away from each other on the circle of fifths. So 6 out of the 7 note names are the same, so I can affect a key change quite subtly there with having like a big difference as I'm playing from C major to where I transition to playing in G major. If I wanted a more pronounced key change, I'd probably look for a target key that's a bit further away on the circle of fifths, because there's going to be more different notes, more notes with different names that don't correspond to the original key. So when I make that key change, it's a little bit more dramatic. So that's another useful use for the circle of fifths. And hopefully that's explained what the circle of fifths is, how you can apply it, why it's a useful little thing to know. There's a tutorial about it actually on the PhatPhish website, so I'll put a link in the information section down there where you can go. It talks a bit about the circle of fifths, and there's a kind of a reference diagram there which you might find useful. As always, if you found this video useful, please click like down there, and if you really enjoyed it and you want to see other videos that are posted onto the channel, then please click subscribe and click the bell icon so you're notified when I upload new videos. I don't always see comments that are left on YouTube videos. You're welcome to leave a comment, but YouTube's a bit rubbish at notifying me when people leave comments on videos. So if there's a question that you want to ask me, whether it's about music theory, guitar playing, guitar equipment, anything at all, you're better off going here, fill that form in, send your question in. That way I'm guaranteed to see it and I can get around to answering your question in a future video. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.